And so what we are speaking about is living from the heart, collapsing the habit to live from the mind into living from the heart, and really opening to what heart is as a field of coherence, as a unified field. That heart is God, heart is the glory. Our connection to heart is a connection that can feel emotional. And in a way, it's the emotionality that can act as a guiding to true heart, through the heart and the emotionality, through the sense of my heart to the infinite, unified, unbounded heart. That we reference the sense of heart in our direct experience as something sacred, something profound, something even tender. We connect into the compassion and care and love that is the heart, the one heart. There's a line in the Ashtavakra Gita that says, "Unless you forget everything, you will never live from the heart." And in a way, what it is speaking to is that we are being invited to forget all of the beliefs and stories and ideas that we have about who we are. And when all of the mental ideas fall away, what is left, what remains, is the heart. And that the true heart is not a personal heart, but it is an unbounded, infinite heart. And the true heart is love, is God, is the glory. Again, as Ramana said, heart is thy name, O Lord. And so, in a way, heart isn't something personal. Heart is the field. It is the field that is unified. It is the field that is coherent. And in the invitation to forget everything, it's forgetting everything that keeps us bound to being divided, forgetting everything that keeps us protected, forgetting everything that is conditioned, forgetting everything that is learned that keeps the sense of me divided from wholeness. But of course, that doesn't leave us without all of the uniqueness that we are. What is really being invited is that instead of referencing what we think we know through belief and learned knowledge, that we reference the intelligence of heart, that we reference what the heart knows, and that we value deeply what the heart knows. And so then we discover, well, what does the heart know? What is the true knowing of the heart? The recognition of what is true, the heart's knowing of its own beingness, its own belonging to God and glory. And even that, you know, there are subtle plays in words, but there is only God, only heart. So even we could say that expressions of belonging to God or the child of God, like it's all a play of words, right? It's a play of words that dance as a transmission invitation that is bringing us to realize that there is only God. There's nothing apart from what God is. And what God is what we are. There can be a kind of sense of well, I can't say that I am God. But by the time we could say that we know there's only God, there's no me to try to claim the throne, right? It's a disappearance of division. So what I am is the same as what God is, because we lose the conceptual ideas of God being some kind of hierarchy, or the divine being some kind of hierarchy. We really open to what the intelligence of heart is attempting to reveal to us, which is that there is only one, there's no second, there's nothing else but what God is, what glory is, what love is. There's nothing else. And this is a frequency that we know, we could say, in the heart, or as the heart. It's the heart's knowing. And again, we dance with words in our human experience, because the transmission uses words that will touch us, that will enliven us. But we never really take the words as a truth. The only truth is what the words are pointing to when we discover it for ourselves, right? So the words are pointing, and there's an attunement that happens in the field of transmission, where the heart knowing comes online, where the knowing of being is here as the ever-present now, as the sense of what I am, that I am the presence. And so nothing that can be expressed in words has the same power as the direct knowing. And that is why, as we open into the direct knowing, we realize what revelation is. And revelation is our lived experience shifting from a sense of feeling divided and living from the mind as the master, where we are living from heart. We're living as the heart, as the unified field. And in a way, even the masking, the concealment, seemingly, of God and glory in our lived experience, even the concealment or the sense that it's hiding in our lived experience, that too is God, right? There's nothing outside of what God is, of what the glory is, nothing outside. And so when we come into communion with the divine, with God, with, we could say, the love of God, or the longing for God, for glory, for wholeness, we're coming in connection with a frequency field, like a magnetic field of attraction. The field of separation, division, is a field of polarization. The field of love is a field of attraction, of magnetism. So we feel this pull, we feel this love, we feel this draw. And what we are really being drawn to is our own wholeness, to know the truth of who we are, to know God in our heart, to know what we belong to. And where we feel the resonance, the vibrational knowing that we can trust, that is the alive frequency of connection to Source. And when we feel that alive connection to Source, we are like plugged in, we are being nourished by Source. And we can feel divine nourishment. It is without doubt. And divine nourishment allows us to relax out of the mind and the ideas that we need to be nourished by things and people and relationships and experiences. And we realize that true nourishment comes by being connected to what we are, being connected to the essence of who we are, and allowing the recalibrations and upgrades that bring us to a more integrated, embodied experience of love, embodying light, embodying the true essence nature. So in a way, the words come as a transmission, and the transmission enlivens and brings a sense of attunement in the field. It enlivens the intelligence that we are made of and brings a sense of attunement. The mind can take the words and give meaning and try to give context and understanding. And usually there will be some kind of misinterpretation in that. And the misinterpretation will move through the frequencies of fear and division that we're holding, that will usually make it seem like we need to try harder, we need to fix this, we need to do better, that we're doing something wrong. So the filters of separation, of division, will always put a slant on the great glorious flow of love and turn it into something limited, lacking, judging, something that's telling me there's something wrong with me. But that's never actually the truth. It's the mind itself that puts the angle on it, we could say. The mind itself puts the filters on. There could be the most profound expression of love right before you, and if you have a fear or mistrust, you will just be suspicious and project the mistrust and the fear onto that love, because that is how the kind of metaphysics of consciousness operate, that the frequencies that we are holding are what we are creating, and we're creating it through the mind projections, right? So that is why, again, I think we referenced this maybe yesterday, that we can say that the world is mind. So the mind creates the world, and yet love creates reality, right? So we could say that whatever we are seeing, we can know that if there's discordance, if there's resistance, if there's stress, that somehow that is our creation, our mental creation. And that is why we're invited to take responsibility for our creation and not to believe the projections, not to believe that anything out there is responsible for what we are thinking and how we are perceiving. The upgrade in perception comes as we truly see through the eye that is love. And in that we take responsibility and we realize, well, if I can take responsibility for what I'm created without entering the pain body and feeling like self-pity and like a victim to my own creation, like beat myself up for creating things that are hard, if I can realize, okay, this is the intelligence, this is magic, this is showing me a reflection of what is limiting inside me. This is showing me a reflection of what is discordant and conditioned inside me, so that I can actually feel my way through the energetics, through the frequencies of discordance, and transmute the discordance and bring clear seeing. And so in a way, taking responsibility actually brings us to divine power. It brings us to an empowered recognition that I have absolute power to shift my lived experience of what I think is reality and come to know what is true reality. And of course, when we are in the direct experience of reality, we recognize it, we know it. It's without doubt, it's without question. And whatever the mind might bring in as an overlay, or attempting to tell us that what we're seeing and what we're reveling in is not true, there's a deeper power that knows, no, that voice is not the truth. That voice is the voice of fear. It's an old voice. It's a karmic voice. And it's trying to trick me into coming into division. But I won't be tricked. I will not be tricked. I will love that voice into its own submission. There can be this way of making what we could say ego a kind of enemy, right? Ego is protection. Ego is like an innocent child. If we make ego wrong, the sense of me, if we make that wrong, we are just creating a frequency field of resistance where we are pushing away parts of ourselves. And on a certain level, as we open to witness and open to the sense of being, in a way, separating from our identification with the ego patterns in the early stages of this unfolding can, of course, be supportive, because we almost have to kind of pull away from what we think we are to discover who we truly are. And then when we are in the recognition of who we truly are, we start to have this power of unifying the field. And so then we want to start really including everything. And we realize that we've never actually been asked to not include everything, but we've just been opening to, in a way where the pendulum has swung all the way to I am the me, the mind, body, the victim, and believing that that is the lived human experience. It's almost as if the pendulum has to swing the other way in order to be like, whoa, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the person that I thought I was. I'm the being. There's a being here, there's a witness here. Wow, what a revelation. But then it's as if like the pendulum just continues to swing, and as it swings, it just brings a kind of balancing, harmonizing equilibrium, which is the unified field. So we could say it's as if we go from mind, body consciousness, limited consciousness at a point, opening to the cosmic, universal consciousness of what I truly am, and that starts to then flow in a way of including everything. So when we speak of, if we have some kind of sense that the ego is a barrier or is wrong and we are resisting, we are actually just kind of putting an already wounded child in the corner and saying, yes, you are unlovable. Sit in the corner while I'm over here getting enlightened, right? So it's this invitation to realize that we don't come to, what enlightenment as a sort of mythic expression is pointing to by leaving the wounded child in the corner. We are being invited to bring everything and all that we are, all of ourself into the light, in order to realize that there is only light. The essence nature of everything is light, and the principle of illumination is here to illuminate everything so that we can feel whole and we can actually experience the technology of love as our main operating system of functioning. And love as a technology includes everything, is an all-encompassing field that doesn't leave anything out. So we can kind of dance in what we're speaking of, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and we can sort of dance with the idea of what love is, intellectually or conceptually, but we're being invited into a deep and full, true direct experience. And let's say that the experience is pure experiencing. It's not someone having an experience. It's the flow of consciousness experiencing itself. It's experiencing itself in its fullness. And the pure field of experiencing experiences itself as the seer and the seen. So then we would maybe shift the word experiencing to seeing. So the seer or the experiencer, the one that is the pure awareness, the one that is looking at the whole picture without being touched, is also this in essence, the same essence as what is being seen or what is being experienced. And the flow, the dynamic flow of life, the flow of the Vishnu flow, is the flow of consciousness, is the unifying field that knows its essence and is kind of sweeping through our field of experience, unifying what we are perceiving to be divided. So as we come into connection, we could say with consciousness, our consciousness, the consciousness through the nervous system, we access the alchemy, we access the capacity to distill and transmute and reorganize, not as someone that is doing something, but as a field of intelligence that knows how to reorganize and repattern. And yet we are an active participant in that, right? It's all just happening, but the me, and the me is not doing anything, but in a way what the me is consciousness. So there's a sense of participation, and the participation is through being conscious. So conscious of being awake and aware, of conscious of being here now, conscious in the way that in our human experience, our nervous system is consciousness. We are made of intelligence. So we have this capacity, absolutely, to open to a deeper, more subtle experience than just the mind-body thinking, trying to work it out, trying to fix and change, trying to be seen, understood, trying to create things that will, make me successful or feel secure in the play of the world. So when we come to the field of consciousness, we realize that every feeling, every energetic signature that moves through our nervous system is an opportunity to align with our consciousness. And instead of feeling like, oh, there's a trigger, there's fear, go away. Oh no, this is an opportunity to come into the subtle recognition of my own consciousness and start to perceive more subtly the body, the energetic body, the subtle body, the light body, the bliss body, right? So we're coming through being able to feel and sense and cognize. We're coming into connection with our multi-dimensional being, right? And as we come into connection with our multi-dimensional beingness, we start opening in consciousness to the codings that have been dormant, that we haven't been really using. So part of us gathering and this sharing, how the transmission here works as a field of infusion, is that it activates through infusing the consciousness by allowing the consciousness to bathe in and be infused in frequencies where attunement can happen, right? It's like, maybe we could say, taking a magnesium salt bath, right? Or an Epsom salt bath, right? You put the salt in and you lie in the bath, and just in the resting, in the relaxation, the medicine starts to infuse, and we soak in, and there's an alchemical shift that happens in the body by taking in the seeming medicine or the seeming frequencies that bring a recalibration or a reorganization to the physiology or the chemistry, right? It's exactly the same. as we rest in the transmission field, and of course this is true of how the expression here, when we gather and join, how the transmission field works. But of course that field of transmission is active and alive in many other ways when we are sitting and resting, in a sense of, like, we could say meditation or just sitting. When we come into that deeper frequency field, we access the field of consciousness. When we come into nature, we access the field of transmission, where we can attune, where there's a recalibration of the chemistry, an alchemical recalibration of the consciousness. And that recalibration of the consciousness happens multidimensionally. It happens in the mind, mental, the emotional, happens in the physical, it happens in the field of intelligence, and it brings online a sense of the bliss body and the light body, and deepens our capacity in our lived human experience to rest in the being, rest in that which is beyond dimensionality, to go beyond dimensionality. What is beyond dimensionality is the pure being. What is beyond dimensionality is the pure presence field, is what God is, the one. So the words don't matter, right? As the words come, it's not like a lecture of something to learn, trying to track it, trying to understand it, trying to keep up, or feeling like, oh, I'm lost, I don't really understand. It doesn't matter, because the infusing is just like we could say, when you jump into that magnesium salt bath, you don't need to lie there and read the instructions in order for it to work, right? You just soak. You just soak. And yet, because of our multidimensional experience, the words will ignite and enliven. And the words also give the mind a little bone to chew on, which is we could say it's like a healthy bone, right? A bone of curiosity. It actually starts to recalibrate the mind to its cosmic nature, brings the mind to its cosmic nature, brings the body to its cosmic universal nature. Yeah. So then really what we are speaking of is, we're speaking of the subtlety of what we are, so that we have this possibility of attuning and opening to the intelligence field of heart, where the sense of my heart can give way to the divine heart, the infinite heart. And instead of feeling like my heart here, it's like we open the sense of heart, like we're opening the back of the wardrobe, right? As we speak of sometimes, right? About, we enter into that sense of Narnia. We open the back of the wardrobe when we enter into the divine realms. And as we enter into the divine and we open, the divine starts coming through the sense of heart. And we see that symbol of the infinity symbol, and the heart is the pivot point. And one side of the infinity loop is the human experience and the reflected world, the projected reflected world out here, reality as seen as what's out here. And then at the other side of the infinity loop is the field of divine consciousness. And that infinite flow of unity consciousness is moving through the sense of heart and allowing our lived human experience to be transmuted through the heart intelligence and given to God as being one with God. And then the God field, the divine field, the field of love, infuses the heart with divine knowing, with bliss, with love, and our lived experience and our bliss body comes online, and then we are expressing into the world from that frequency of love, of bliss, and again then we open and we can transmute. So it's like we transmute the discordance, the suffering, the stress, the fear. We transmute it through our nervous system like a distillery. We transmute it through feeling and sensing, being with it, not resisting it, including it. We let the energy run. And when the energy isn't resisted, it naturally finds this harmonizing, rebalancing in its own perfect timing. And it feeds that bliss to the landscape of the gods, of the divine landscape. And then it's fed back to us as bliss in the heart, as peace in the heart, as a knowing of the heart, and a deeper sinking into the field of coherence where true healing happens, right? When we are joined in a field of coherence, true healing happens. True healing happens in a field of coherence, a unified field, because it's a shift in perspective from seeing something wrong and trying to fix it, through letting whatever seems to be wrong be included in the field of coherence, that whatever seems to be wrong repatterns in the frequency field. There's a divine repatterning that happens in the consciousness. If we bring whatever seems to be discordant to presence. So again, this is exactly what we're speaking of. If we feel a charge or a trigger, or we feel emotionality, or whatever it is that's going on, confusion, not able to make a decision, we just bring it to the now. We don't need to fix it or change it. We just recognize this too is God. Just bring it to God, bring it to the oneness, and allow the field to repattern. And in a way, it sounds very simple, and it can be hard to be simple, because the sense might be, okay, well, I'll bring it to God, but I'll also like take these supplements and I'll do this and I'll do that to fix it. So our energy isn't actually really bringing it to the one, isn't really fully immersed in the one. It's actually saying, well, I'll kind of come to presence, but I don't really believe that's true, so I'm going to do all these other things as well. So we have to, in our own dance of life, kind of explore that. I'm never saying anything here, giving an instruction or a suggestion of how anybody should be, but there's an exploration of that's very potent, to realize, what frequency am I actually creating from? What is the sponsoring frequency I'm broadcasting from and creating from? Because we can be with all of our might saying, oh, but I know there's only one, and I know there's only one power, and I trust this, and giving it all the spiel, and feeling really, really in absolute conviction. But then the way that we're moving is saying, yeah, but over here I actually don't really believe that, and I'm going to try and fix it, and I'm going to move in a way from a very deeply held frequency that says that I'm self-reliant and I'm divided from God, and I'm responsible. So it's a really subtle dance, and it's one of the really great explorations that is very, very deep in our refinement process. Because, of course, we can't make that absolute knowing be there if it's not there. And so that inner dance, that inner exploration of where we can feel the knowing and then watch as we make, it's like we give with one hand and we take away with the other. Watch as we make a move from fear. That's where a lot of really profound refinement happens, as we see the moves that we're making. Or we can say, yeah, I'm moving from abundance. I'm moving for abundance, but I'm going to choose the cheap option. You know, it's like it's not really believing that there's absolute unlimited resources, right? So again, it's a you can feel it, and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But then when it comes to the moment of, like, you know, just writing out the check for $1 million, it's like, whoa, you know, the fear comes in. So so we have to kind of play that edge of, like, and you know, where the edge is the heart. What does your heart tell you? What is the truth of your heart? It's not about taking crazy risks, like mind risks of, like, okay, I'm just going to go out with my credit card and just buy everything and just know that it's all God. Because if that isn't aligned with a frequency, you're going to end up with a credit card debt that's going to, like, kind of dance your fear frequency, right? So it has to be aligned. It has to be coming through deep intuitive knowing. Now, this is the divine movement. This is the divine movement. Like, no question, right? And that's how we dance with any experience in life. We're dancing that edge of being invited to total unified heart coherence, an absolute knowing of the one, right? And it's through the play of life. Life is the means. It's through the play of life that we are given these possibilities, these opportunities. Somebody in front of you with challenging behavior. How do I see God in this? How do I not project? How do I be with this, right? The relational field is a glorious way that we're constantly being invited to meet ourselves more deeply and know that one. So it's the edges of our lived experience that are the golden opportunities and the possibilities to come to where we do know what is true, and to bring what doesn't know what is true in our lived experience home through inclusivity, through the technology of love that includes and receives and allows this rebalancing to happen again and again, allows this rebalancing to happen, allows a softening to happen. And that we're not trying to systemize our life. We're coming out of a sense of deep self-reliance and independence that is believed to be like true safety and a kind of resilience, and it's kind of believed to be a sovereignty or an autonomy. And yet that conditioning runs very, very, very deep. And in that we will also constantly be pulled to give power to things that are outside of us and not trust our own intelligence, right? Because we're not in that frequency of the one. We're trusting something outside us, and our deep need for like safety and a sense of false sovereignty that's born out of that kind of self-reliance will also be connected with a very deep unworthiness and powerlessness that will allow us to keep thinking that the answers are in other people's knowledge and not in our own intelligence, right? So true autonomy is the autonomy that we find in an absolute knowing of our being, of the absolute knowing of our connection to God and glory. That our knowing of what it is to be connected to Source, right? I mean, everything in life is a reflection, and everything is playing perfectly, but always to show us a deeper truth of who we are, a deeper truth of the ways that the me and the mind thinks about who I should be or what I should be over who you are truly here to be. So autonomy brings us to the heart coherence field and a deep inner knowing of that intuitive knowing that is just a yes, like a yes that resonates at the level of body and isn't a yes at the level of mind. It's a yes that is a resonance, a vibration that we receive at the level of body transmission, like that deep intuitive knowing, and not at the level of the mind that makes sense of it, right? Often the deep intuitive knowing won't make sense to the mind, and the mind will actually say, oh no, no, you don't want to go in that direction. That would be a terrible idea. Stay safe, right? So again, we're in this, we're speaking of this dance, of the subtlety of our inner experience becoming reattuned to the intuitive knowing of the intelligence of the coherence field of the one heart over the learned protective sense that the mind knows and the mind is the master, and that deep self-reliance and false autonomy that is division, is holding ourselves actually away from the absolute fullness of life. Yeah. So as the words are coming, just resting here and bathing here. And just notice what is being enlivened, what is attuning, what is stirred. Just to feel that attunement with the field, that you are a field. You're not operating in a limited dimension. You're operating multidimensionally and beyond. You are a being of light, and you are in the process of discovering the light intelligence that you are, in order to embody that intelligence, that light, and be a vehicle for what love truly is, what the glory truly is, to get to the surface of life. And the way that that happens is through your flowering, through the flowering of your heart, right? You know, we could think, oh well, to be a true expression is that we're all kind of like monks, right? we're all the same. We all shave our heads and we all wear the same clothes. And now we're a field of coherence. But it's not the truth, right? But we can have these images, these ideas of that somehow, like, spiritual evolution is about getting to a point where we kind of renounce the world and we step away from life as we know it. But what we are in is we're in a time where the evolution of human consciousness is happening in the heart of what might be called householders, right? And what we mean by that is everybody else, right? And you know, we even see in this the evolution of consciousness. We even see the ones that have felt like to kind of enter into some kind of renunciate life, monastic life, as the way, actually realizing that maybe that's not the way, and kind of leaving the robes behind, leaving the ashram, in order to actually realize that the fullness of this evolution is often a return to the world, to reclaim yourself in the face of the world. So, again, there's so many ideas that we've had about spiritual hierarchies and ways of making ourselves less than, like, or being a householder is kind of less than being a monastic or a renunciate. It somehow means that my commitment to God is not full, or I'm not wired for that, but somehow there's a placing some kind of hierarchy upon that. But what we realize is that the fullness of our evolution is dependent upon us blossoming and flowering as the unique expression of God and glory that we are here to be, and nothing else. We're not here to compare and compete. We're here to release all of those frequencies through an autonomous connection to source, where we're nourished and the dharmic energies start flowing through us, that only this unique configuration of the divine can actually express this, right? No one is supposed to be like me, and no one is supposed to be like you, right? We're not here to learn how to be like me. Oh no, you're here to learn how to be like you. You're here to receive the grace divine invitation to be yourself so fully, and to stop putting any embargoes on your unique nature and comparing and competing or believing that you need to be like anyone else. That to be yourself, right, that great instruction, be yourself, is an invitation to be the unique expression of the one self that only you can be. And there's something so profound about this as such an important part of the evolution of consciousness, because without this part, the divine cannot get to the surface of life. It needs to be on the surface of life as a frequency of consciousness, as a frequency of love that is seamlessly interacting with all of life in order for the whole consciousness to be recalibrated, right? It doesn't happen. And there have been many experiments, right, of huge groups meditating together. Can see that there are many kind of monks and monastics worldwide, but they're not necessarily awake, right? They may meditate a lot and they may come to an inner peace through using practices, but the consciousness is not actually awake. And the consciousness has to be awake for the frequency to shift and to truly make a difference in the evolution. And the consciousness shifts when we are not restricting and restraining and making ourselves wrong. The consciousness can't truly shift, and we can't come to wholeness if we have got little Johnny sitting in the corner feeling like a wounded child, right? Every single part of us has to come into the fullness of the heart for us to flower uniquely out of the fertile soil of the unified field, so that our soul evolution, we can say, can actually expand in all directions and dimensions that it's here to expand in. If we haven't tidied up what is in this dimension to tidy up, we could be getting a return ticket to come back, right? So let's tidy up. Ananda Mayama would speak about like really clearing things up so you don't get a return ticket. And the tidying up happens is by realizing there's only one and everything is that one, right? And so that is what we are speaking of, is how do we in our lived experience come to recognize that there is only one? How can we bring everything into belonging, out of limitation? How can our lived experience be a process of undividing, and in that undividing, letting the petals of our blossoming and flowering come into its fullness? So this is what we are up to, and this is what we are contemplating and exploring together. Yeah.